So we're back here on Who's On First. We are continuing our coverage of the Erie SeaWolves. We've got Greg Gania here with the Erie SeaWolves. Greg, first of all, we're meeting in person, man.
We are.
I feel like we've been on like baseballharmony.com and it's happening.
Yeah, you guys are awesome on Twitter. You're always interactive with us, and it's good to finally put faces to the names on the on Twitter.
It cracked me up as I was leaving. Jessica's like, I'm not worried about you at the team store because you already own everything. I'm like, challenge accepted.
I was going to say, you've come fully prepared today and on brand with Star Wars Night. I love
this
it.
is one of my, I have 130 jerseys. This is like in the top 5.
And we even got the board ready to go for you on Star Wars Day here, so we got a nice background
Look
for
at
you.
that. We've got BB-8. Let's talk a little bit about you.
Yeah.
How did you go from a kid, I presume, who likes baseball to now here you are?
Well, generally, kids who like baseball and can't play baseball very well tend to find their way into the industry. So that was me.
Yeah.
I was awful. I played as a young kid, and then I got into it when I was in, probably 12, 13 years old and got really into baseball. So I started – my career started with the Mahoning Valley Scrappers.
Okay, great.
16 years old, team moved into Niles, Ohio, and that was 10 minutes from where I grew up. Team actually relocated the Penn League team from Erie to Mahoning Valley.
Wow.
And I got a job slinging hot dogs in the concession stand and made all the connections. And I'm sure Andy Milovich, who has been in the game for a long time. He was my general manager at the time. And I went to Andy as I was going into my sophomore year of college saying, hey, I want to be a part of this and I want to work for this organization. And he goes, well, what are you going to school for? And I said, well, I'm looking to do broadcasting. And he said, well, I don't know if I'm going to have anything in broadcasting, but I'll keep you in mind. So I get a phone call in my dorm room in February. He goes, hey, you want to be my broadcaster? I'm like, absolutely, sign me up. So that's how I got my start, and I've been doing it ever since. Did 3 years in Mahoning Valley, got to Erie in 2006, was hired just as the broadcaster in media relations, climbed the ladder, and got to be the assistant GM of the club.
Doing the broadcasting, how much responsibility do you take being the voice of a team, particularly like this one with such a big following?
Yeah, it's a lot, and with my hands in so many pieces of the business, it's tough at times to focus solely on the broadcast side. But as I have aged, I have made it a point to make sure I have time every day in my day to focus on being the voice of the SeaWolves,
right?
Because the days get away from you very fast. I'm in charge of that. I have some sales. I have baseball operations. I do all of our PR, a lot of the social. So you have to really manage your day quite well. But I've got good ownership and a good team president that kind of lets me do my thing, and they know I know what I'm doing, so it makes it easy.
Well, you have a great voice for
Thank
it.
you.
I was just going to say, I think you know Robert Ford.
I do. I know Robert very well.
We had Robert come talk to my film students,
Okay.
and we had a couple of minor league guys as well, which we should guilt you into coming in August. We'll talk about that later. But one of the kids was like, it seems like you worked harder in the minors, and he went, yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah,
Like,
no,
yeah.
absolutely. So I've called several games for the Tigers. I think I'm up to like 5 or 6 games now with Detroit, done some spring training games with them as well. And that's easy. I love it. I just get to show up, do my preparation, do my lineup card, and talk. And it's the best job in the world. I mean, so that's why you see those big league guys, they stay there for 30, 40 years
Yeah.
because it is just, you have to be good, obviously. You
Sure.
have to be good to get there. You have to be good to stay there a long time. But that's the goal for all of us in the minor leagues is to get there. And because it is, down here in the minor leagues, and I've talked to so many guys who are in the big leagues, and they tell you, it's a lot easier when you get up here. You have to know your stuff, but it's a lot easier because you're not worrying about the nuances of the day-to-day operations.
The legwork is done.
Yes.
I got a question. I'll preface it with, I was listening to Robert call a game last night, and the Astros were up big, and there was a player on the other team called like Nougat, and him and Sparky decided to spend an entire at-bat deciding what kind of candy bar he would be. How do you come up with what to talk about when the game is out of hand one way or the other?
Well, you know what? It's you kind of let it come naturally. And, Twitter is a big help a lot of times because you'll see things pop up on Twitter during the game, and you'll just kind of dovetail into that. I mean, honestly, the worst thing as a broadcaster is when you have a game that's either the blowout win or the blowout loss.
Sure.
And I have people that come up to me all the time, and, the SeaWolves, we had a game a couple weeks ago where, we scored 16, 17 runs, and they were like, oh, that had to be awesome for you. I'm like, yeah, it's great when you're calling the action, but when it's 15-1 after the 3rd or 4th inning, you got still 6 more innings to try and figure out what to talk about.
Yeah.
So you go down some rabbit holes at times, but you have to keep it all in stride, and it's you want to keep it light, and that's I've always prided myself on having a relaxing style of broadcast, and that's whether you try not to get too high, too low, and when you have those blowout games, sometimes you're really scraping the barrel. I mean, if you see a fan doing something outlandish, that might spark a conversation. Or I think we were in Binghamton a couple years ago, and we had a blowout. I think we were down actually. It was a blowout, but there was a bunch of fans decided to do a beer snake. And I'm like, well, this is something to talk about. So you just find things to talk about. And when you do this long enough, you figure it out.
You figure it out. I want to talk a little bit about the brand, because it is one of the most dynamic brands in minor league baseball. You have the fun pirate look. You have the whole sword flag thing. How important is it for a brand to be a front porch, not just for the Erie community, but the fact that there is this entire community of ballpark chasers and logo collectors and that kind of thing?
Yeah, we take so much pride in the brand. And when Greg Coleman got here in 2011, one of the first things that he said is we need to do a rebrand. We the team name is a good name. We want to stick with that, but we've got to get to a point where we have better logos, because our stuff was not good back in the day.
Wow. Okay.
And so it was about a 2-year process to rebrand to the current Wolf logo that we have now. And we worked with Dan Simon, Studio Simon. And
former guest on the show.
Yeah, he's phenomenal.
Yeah, he's great.
And so we've worked with Dan on pretty much every project ever since. And so now that we actually established the brand, and we didn't really add any offshoots for the first couple of years, and then we started to kind of open it up a little bit once we got the actual brand established. And so it's been fun. Being a part of that process is something I never thought I would be able to do. And like I mentioned, I'm in charge of our baseball operations. So being a part of jersey designs and different things like that is just so cool to do. And so Coleman and I work all the time on different looks, and the things that we've left on the cutting room floor that we'll revisit in a couple years. I mean, it's such a fun process, but we take it very seriously.
Well, but talk about that, because even your Howlers thing, or you're using what was supposed to be the main logo as an alternate brand this year.
Yeah, absolutely, and so it is. You go back, and the Howling Dead was that example of something that Dan had created, and then we just kind of morphed that into the current Howling Dead, and then we put it on hats, shirts, and jerseys, and it was our top-selling hat of all time. I mean, we struck lightning in a bottle there.
You're about to sell 2 more. So.
Yeah, hey, it's a great look. I mean, it's a hat we can't keep in stock, which is a good problem to have.
Sure.
But we anticipated that. We didn't know how it was going to skew, and we were looking at it, and we thought it was going to skew male, 25 to 45, and it has been the complete opposite. It has skewed across children, women, men, senior citizens, young kids, you name it. And that logo has skewed towards everybody. So sometimes you strike lightning in a bottle with things like that. Other ones that we've tried in the past haven't worked out as well. But you like to keep it fresh. And it's not just about selling hats and jerseys. That's obviously a big part of it from the business side. But we take so much pride in it.
Right.
And it's an extension of the brand. When I see you guys from, you're from Texas and you have SeaWolves gear.
Yeah.
That means that we're doing our job. And that's so cool when you see that. And I can't tell you how many other broadcasters in the league when we're traveling, or other fans, or people who work in press boxes, and they'll come up to me and they go, gosh, I wish our team had as many different looks as you guys do, because your stuff is so clean and nice and it looks great on the field. So I take pride in saying that we're the best dressed team on the field in the entire Eastern League.
Honestly, to me, it's you guys in the hooks, minor league baseball wide, I think do a great job of pivoting. And one of the things.
And let me go back to one quick story about that. So we added the yellow hat on field last year.
Right.
So I don't know if you know much about colors with jerseys and hats, but every company has a different thread and a different dye. So we were in a really bad pickle last year, and just to kind of show how we were nimble with something, so we got a yellow cap with a black bill to match our yellow jerseys. So we get the hats came in first, we get the jerseys, they don't match. So we went through probably 8 rounds of swatches, sending hats back and forth to Wilson, trying to match New Era. And finally, we had to change our New Era cap to a different color gold for this season. But what morphed out of that was, well, we didn't want to leave hats off the field as we promoted, we're going to wear these hats on the field all year.
Right.
So we added a new black jersey with yellow piping, and so now we're nimble on the fly, and we created an awesome look for the field. So it's just, you have to be nimble when you do this. Well, some things aren't going to work and some things will.
And I love it when you take the Wolf and you put an Army helmet on him, or you put him, and I have all of those. You don't have the Army helmet in a 3930. I'd like to point that out.
Well, then you're going to go visit Christy in the team store in a little while. Make sure you let her know.
We're going to let her know that, because I would have that one too. But that's one of those things where even my wife is like, I don't understand why other teams don't just do that. People love it.
Honestly, I think a lot of teams are hesitant to make the investment in adding different marks to their brand. And there are a few teams that you see. I mean, Richmond's another prime example in our league. They're always rolling out something new every season. You have to keep it fresh, but it is an investment. And that's why we go with Dan Simon. You know, obviously it's not cheap to do all these different logos.
Right.
But we make the money investment in that because we know that from a fan side of things, they're going to like it. From a business side of things, it's a smart business move. But too many teams are afraid to kind of take that leap at times to add different marks. And, you know, I'll have people ask me, you know, why don't you guys have a white or a gray jersey? And part of the problem is, well, it's tough to match whites and grays anymore with all the different kinds of baseball pants that are out there. So we've abandoned whites and grays, and we have all these different colored uniforms, and it's been a great addition. And the guys love it, too. The players love it. It's every day. And so, you know, some teams allow the starting pitcher to decide what they wear. We don't do that. I literally map out the entire season. And so the guys get in every day. They know what hat, what jersey, because we have so many. Right. And it makes it easy on them. And the manager's like, great, because I don't have to worry about one pitcher not liking to pitch in this and this guy not liking to pitch in that. So the managers love it, and the guys love it.
I love that. I wanted to talk a little bit about, you guys really killed it in the pandemic. You guys are a cornerstone of the community. How important is it selfishly from a business reason, but also, I guess, from a moral reason, to be a good community partner, particularly in a community like this one?
That's one of our core key business strategies, is being key community partners. And, you know, it shows by the fact that the state awarded us all that money many years ago. And then at Erie Events, our landlord and who owns they operate the ballpark, the theater, the convention center, and the arena.
Sure.
They've made investments in here as well. And it's our job as community leaders to give back. And, you know, you'll see, I mean, there are so many Saturdays where I'll get a text from Greg Coleman in the morning, hey, I'm going out to a game with kids that have disabilities, and they'll take the mascot out to that. Or, you know, it just, our community relations department is out doing different things on weekends, and they don't have to do that stuff.
Right.
And so we take it very seriously. And part of the other reason we have so many different jerseys, because we have so many charitable partners that we need that many jerseys and specialty nights to make sure all of our charity partners are made whole. So we take it very seriously, and you know, another thing that we've done very well is establish the SeaWolves Community Fund, and a big part of that is the Chase Numata scholarship of our player who passed away many years ago.
Right.
It was 2019. Seems like yesterday, but it happened in 2019.
Right, I remember,
and so we have kind of helped carry his legacy on, and he. That community impact, where we're giving back to local high school baseball and softball players going off to play college, we take that very seriously. And look, we wouldn't be here without the Erie community and our fan base, and it's our job to make Erie a better place than when we got here.
I have two more questions for you.
Yeah.
One of the things that I love about this show is people actually will come and visit you guys because y'all have been on the show. What is one thing you want a fan exiting these gates to get out of their experience here?
Boy, I want them to come and be entertained. We have invested a lot and hired some very good people in our entertainment department. You guys will see that tonight with the work they do on the scoreboard and our in-game promotions. You know, we want everybody leaving happy, and I know that's a cliche in minor league baseball. And you know, I hate when you hear operators say, "Well, we don't want them to know the final score when they leave," because we do take the baseball very seriously here.
Right,
too.
and they do say that.
No, they do. They do ad nauseum, and it's like, all right, come on,
we get it.
Yeah, it's like, yeah, we get it. And no, we take the baseball side seriously. We take the fan experience side seriously, and we want people leaving the ballpark to think that there was something there for them, whether it's, you know, whatever specialty item that we have at the concessions that night, or whether they got an autograph from a player or had a good interaction with one of our employees. We want them to leave happy, and that's at the end of the day. If we do that, we have the repeat business, and we've done our jobs.
I have 4 random rapid fire questions.
Yeah,
so clear your head. One of them is going to make me question my faith in humanity, so we'll start with that one. Godfather 1 or 2?
1.
Can I tell you the number of people who have said I haven't seen him? Like, and that's like my age. I'm like, you should stop this interview and go watch The Godfather. Like,
well, how can you not? It's on like TBS every week.
Well, first of all, yeah, and then it's on my house every 3 months. Okay.
I don't own it, but I've seen it.
A lot of the news about Oakland, going to Vegas. Oh, any thoughts on that? I mean, I see the positive side.
Are you trying to get me in trouble with the commissioner?
I am. Well, first of all, the commissioner doesn't know who I am. You'll be fine. I've been trying to get his attention, but nothing.
Unfortunate for the people in Oakland. You know, I actually, so I got my first trip to the Coliseum last year. I called a Tigers doubleheader against the A's last July. The broadcast booth was phenomenal. I was told watch out for possums when I got there because you never know what's going to come out of the ceiling there. The ballpark, I mean, it's to me, shame on the city of Oakland.
Sure.
You know, you've lost your baseball team now. You've lost your basketball team. You've lost your football team. It's unfortunate because that community was once a thriving sports community, and you feel bad for the fans. I understand that it's a money decision from ownership.
Right.
And, when you hear the things that come out, you don't know who to believe. You don't know if you can believe the city of Oakland to say that they've actually made every effort, because the other cities are making the effort. And it seems like if you're 3 for 3 and losing your teams, you have to take a look at the people running the show at the city of Oakland. And so it's unfortunate. I personally, I would like to see, and I think Bryce Harper may have said this. Where you would like to see the Vegas franchise get rebranded, and then hope at some point, kind of like the Cleveland Browns. Yeah. I grew up in Ohio, so that was a big. I was never a Browns fan growing up, but that was all the people that I knew that were big Browns fans. They were like, yeah, Baltimore can have the team as long as we're getting one back, and as long as it's the Browns again, we'll be fans. And I think that's what's tough. And
keeping the records consistent.
Absolutely. So I think that would be key. And just treat it as a new franchise is how I would approach it. They obviously don't care what I think.
No, I know. And I have a hard time being neutral about it from one of our really good friends is the guy who organized the reverse boycott.
Oh, okay.
And so he knows all about just what the city's done with that particular owners, and it's a whole thing. All right, last question.
Didn't you say that like 4 questions ago?
I know, I did. I've ADD's a thing.
Hey, I get paid to talk for a living.
There
we
you
can
go.
sit here all night.
Well, I actually do have one more after this then.
Okay.
Flex fit, fitted, or dad hat?
Boy, that's a tough one.
Yeah.
And I don't really wear hats that often anymore. I usually go flat bill New Era because when I golf, they work perfect with my Oakleys underneath. So they fit well. I used to be more of a style cap guy, and I've kind of switched. But I don't wear hats very often anymore.
Yeah. Well, when you have hair like that, why would you?
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, honestly, I'm covering up a great head myself.
I even gelled up just for this.
Thank you. My DP, by the way, has no hair. So there you go. None. All right, seriously, though, last question. Look, Rob Manfred has introduced some rules.
Sure. Starting
with the runner on second. Back in the pandemic, which of them do you think just isn't working?
What isn't working? Gosh, that's tough because I think they're all working. We've had those down here for a number of years now. I think the one I was least happy about was the runner on second. It was interesting the first couple of years to see how teams would navigate it, and it is a crappy feeling when you lose a game, especially when you're in a playoff chase. If you lose a game on a ghost runner from second base. That stinks, but I get it too because there have been plenty of times where I've had to sit there and try and talk about a 16-inning game, and that's miserable. And by that time the fans are already gone, and so they've had to make some changes in the game. I love the pitch clock. I wasn't keen on it at first, and then once you saw it in action, and for me,
I'm a convert. I wasn't about it at first either.
For me, my biggest issue from day one with the pitch clock was they didn't enforce it. Umpires would enforce it for about a week and a half to 2 weeks, and then it would just be like back to normal. Here we are with more 4-hour games. But last year was, I think, the first year they made a concentrated effort down here because they knew it was coming to the big leagues that this was going to be enforced. And I think it's been great for the game. The shift rules, I love it. I could not stand. I mean, we had a series, gosh, it's probably been 6, 7, 8 years now when Trenton still had a Double-A team, and they literally shifted on every player for the other team. And I asked their broadcast team, I said, what are you doing here? What is this? And then, the Yankees have data on over 50,000 balls that were batted in play and X percentage onto the pool side. I'm like, you're shifting on a guy who sprays the ball, and his spray charts are even 30%, 30%, 30%, and whatever. And I'm like, really, we're doing this now? So I'm happy to see those rules go away. I don't know if I would tinker much more with things now. I think they're in a good spot. They need to see how this goes for a couple of years, but I am a big pitch clock proponent. I think it's been great for the game, and hey, if you don't like it, get in the box quicker and adjust yourself as a player. And this is a game of adjustments. And if you can't make the adjustments, then deal with it.
Right. And I know the argument has been you wouldn't have had Kirk Gibson's home run today, but we had it. So, you don't know. And I love the bigger bases. And I wish that people would almost flash back to the 90s in these extra innings and learn to manufacture a run.
And that's been the biggest key is if you can. And so now we're seeing in the minor leagues where if the team doesn't score in the top half, then you're starting to see that more manufacturing in the bottom half. I think when the rules first came in, everybody everybody was scoring a run and run and run and run. Then you're back in the 15th inning. So now I think a lot of managers are like, we got to save pitching. Just go swing.
Just go with it. Yeah.
So it creates excitement. Not everybody's going to like it. Not everybody's going to like every rule, but every sport has evolved, and baseball is probably the one that took the longest to evolve. And the NFL has evolved. They want more offense. NBA, they want more offense. People don't come to the ballpark in today's day and age with people with attention spans the size of a gnat that want to sit there and watch a 1-0 pitcher's duel. I love it. I do love it, but I don't love it every night.
Right.
And you're not. And nowadays, when pitchers are only going 5-6 innings max, those days are long gone. So I think this overall, my long-winded way of saying, good for the game. I hope they stop tinkering for a little while. But at the end of the day, baseball has to cultivate young fans.
And I do think it's in a good place. I think the game is going into a good place.
We are going in the right direction, but if we don't start cultivating younger fans who are into the game, then the game won't exist in 50 years. So you have to find a way to get that next generation of baseball fan.
And I went from not into new rules to now I'm hearing proposals of like how hockey has a shoot off at the. I mean, yeah, maybe try that at some point too.
Well, and I think the other thing that's cool is the addition of all the technology in like big league parks now with all the Hawkeye and the stat tracking and all that. You know what that guy is throwing and the velocities and the spin rates and you know, I don't talk about that stuff a ton on the air, but it's cool to see and it's cool for fans to get that insight.
Yeah.
So the more interactive you can make it, because like I said, everybody has no attention span anymore, so you got to find ways to keep people engaged, and I think they're doing a good job of that. But you know, I think where the next place Major League Baseball has to go, they have to find a way to market their superstars. They have done a very poor job of that over the past 20 years. I mean, when I was growing up, it was Ken Griffey Jr. and Cal Ripken Jr. and Tony Gwynn and Wade Boggs and all these guys you would see on commercials constantly at the national level, and you're just not seeing that anymore.
Well, Shohei does nothing national media.
No,
why is that the case?
You have arguably two of the best players of our generation playing for the Angels right now. And if you walked around the stadium tonight, maybe you should try it tonight. Hey, who does Mike Trout play for? And see who they know. If
that'd be fun. That'd be actually fun. We should do that.
Man on the street.
That.
Hey, who's Mike Trout play?
Well, listen, speaking of dedicated and doing it right, Greg, thanks so much for being on. Let's Get To You. Thanks for supporting us. It's been great.
All right, appreciate it.
Cut. Thanks, man.
Is that good?
Perfect.